Girl, you've got questions. Questions about your body and how to feel good in it, about your hormones and how to keep them in check. Questions about your sex life and your whole health. Can you imagine having a best girlfriend who was also a triple board certified OBGYN? A girlfriend doctor you could call and ask or tell her anything. Someone who could show you how to live any stage of life, before, during, or after menopause, in a big, bold, and beautiful way. Well, friends, I'm your girlfriend doctor. I believe you are meant to flourish and shine, to embrace life and awaken to all its possibilities. Let's get there together. Welcome to our show. Welcome back to the Girlfriend Doctor Show. I am your host, Dr. Anna Cabeca, and I'm excited to be here with you to help you thrive at every stage of your life. Yep, today's episode, we are talking about regenerative medicine, longevity, and how we can really unlock the body's healing potential. And with a true pioneer in the field, I'm so excited to bring to you a colleague, a friend, a fellow prayer warrior, Dr. Kathleen O'Neil Smith. Dr. Kathleen O'Neil Smith earned her medical degree from Boston University, where she graduated magna cum laude. She trained at world-renowned institutions, including Mass General and Brigham and Women's Hospital, before opening her private clinic almost 2 decades ago. She is seriously a global expert in regenerative medicine, has been on stages around the world. She has studied extensively and utilized peptide therapy, including GLP-1s, exosomes, and stem cell science. She works with elite athletes and is one herself as a world-class Olympic rower. She also has worked with coaches and some of the greatest of all time in professional sports. She has also served as medical director at Tom Brady's Wellness Center and is a founding member of the International Peptide Society and the American Academy of Stem Cell Physicians. So I'm excited to bring some cutting edge science and tips to help us heal from the inside out with Dr. Kathleen O'Neil Smith. Welcome to the Girlfriend Doctor Show. I've been trying to get you on the show for a while now. I appreciate you so much, especially considering it's Longevity Week in Boston right now, and you have been busy back to back. So I would love for you to share, okay, you are one of the leaders in regenerative medicine, peptide therapies, recovery, regenerative processes. And, first, how did you become interested in this area?
It's amazing. Every day I have new realizations, but this morning and most of the day I was at a longevity conference that was, I would say, conventional medicine. So it was Stanford, Harvard, it was global. There were probably 70 people there. But one of the things that struck me this morning was the first speaker was from Singapore, and she's working on longevity protocols, and really they're putting longevity in clinics for mainstream care in Singapore. And that's the kind of stuff that's coming down the pike. And this is relatively new there, where they're really actually bringing this clinical today, 2025. But the woman who spoke was Andrea Meyer. She's an MD, and she spoke of it as gerotherapeutics. Now, who thinks of gerotherapeutics? My background, of course, was performance, predominantly for the first 10 years of my career. Secondarily, after performance and going to medical school, I went to the morgue. And then from the morgue, I went to geriatrics and palliative care and hospital-based medicine. And then from that, I worked my way back through internal medicine, kind of primary care, and then back towards longevity, which I've been doing in regeneration effectively for at least 15 years. So it's pretty interesting to think of longevity as gerotherapeutics, but gerotherapeutics means preventing of aging.
Right. Well, and let's just talk about it. Help me understand. What did you do in the morgue?
So, in the morgue, I did pathology. So my first bout of medicine post studying medicine and becoming a physician was to go into the morgue and learn what caused people to die. My first patient was 17 years old. in July. My second patient in July was a Samoan who was 50 years old. So this wasn't just like people dying. This was people who died unexpectedly. What was the silent reason that somebody would die unexpectedly? Both of these patients were immune system challenges. Ground zero for peptides, for longevity is immune system. And understanding that, the immune system reboots every 21 days, the bone marrow, the immune system, and it was built to regenerate. And senescent cells, become senescent and zombie-like to avoid the immune system that's trying to take it out. And that's how cancer can evade the immune system that's trying to keep up and trying to regenerate and trying to take out things that don't belong there, remove these cells. Senescent cells can be good, they can be harmful, but we're trying to remove the harmful senescent cells. So immune modulation, which I thought of as I thought of speaking to you today, is really important. Think of estrogen. Estrogen is very immunomodulatory. It can be immunostimulating, it can be immunosuppressing. Progesterone's more immunosuppressing, right? And androgens can be more immunosuppressing. And then you've got DHEA and things that you love, like oxytocin, DHEA and oxytocin, and those are so immune modulatory as opposed to suppressing or activating, stimulating, and it's just mind-boggling.
So like almost like they're adaptogenic in a way, right?
Well, immune modulating is adaptogenic, but the immunostimulatory effect or the immunosuppressant is a little less adaptogenic.
Yeah.
It is what it is, depending upon the environment.
Yeah.
Depending on
Yeah.
the environment,
And so
right?
like if like this immune system, like, Kathleen, I was, retired before the pandemic and I came back into medicine after the pandemic and everything has been immune system. There's so much, the long COVID issues, the cancer, many of the early hormone imbalance issues, the early menopause issue. I mean, there's
Of course,
so much
Progeria.
like I've had to learn so much about the immune system. I'd love for can you break it? Because, Dr. Kathleen O'Neil Smith was a science teacher as well. So she has an incredible way of explaining things. So explain the immune system. When we think, okay, I want to keep my immune system healthy. Like, what are we talking about?
I think that is really important. We need to think of the immune system and the innate immune system, the T cells. A lot of people think of B cells, but we're talking T cells right now. We need to think of those as living drugs, living medications. They basically live within us. We renew it regularly. We want to regenerate. We want to take anything out. Whether it's a virus, COVID, mono, RSV, CMV, any of the viruses that we're talking about, varicella or shingles, right, that can wreak havoc. So our immune system at birth, effectively comes from our mom, as you know, and then our gut begins to train it. Our gut, because it's the exposure to the outside world and the skin, but mostly the gut, trains the immune system. So it trains it to determine if there's friend or foe. So we want to keep this immune system that was really robust from in utero to probably 15 to 20 years of age. But again, depending upon hormones, depending upon other nutrients, depending upon other signaling molecules. If you were a child that didn't eat well and had enormous stress and trauma and didn't sleep well, and you were away on sleepovers every weekend and eating crap and staying up late and not really sleeping and having to get up early to go to practice, it's pretty remarkable that your immune system will not do well. Your hormones won't do well. You'll have endocrine disruption, whether it's cortisol, insulin, estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, if a young female becomes androgenic, if a young male has more estrogen than androgens or testosterone, right? So all of these things, you can never beat lifestyle as the foundation. Do you follow a circadian rhythm? Do you sleep well? Do you sleep enough? Do you manage your stress? Do you eat well? You get 3 opportunities or more a day. What do you put in? Do you
Mhm.
put in, Do you put in the drug, the medicine, the nutrient that's going to drive immune system health?
Yep.
Do you move? Do you keep your fascia moving? Because fibroblasts, which are part of our collagen, connective tissue, extracellular matrix, are part of the immune system. They activate T cells, macrophages, dendritic cells, you name it. So it's really, really important that we understand the interconnectedness, the relationships between organ systems, soft tissue, connective tissue, muscle tissue. The immune cell is a circulating organ. All of these other organs, the ovaries, the testes, where estrogen, progesterone, and hormones come from, are all being bypassed by the circulating immune system that's trying to just keep us healthy.
I think too, like something, I did the dark retreat. I talked to you and our dear friend, Dr. Angela Aki. I went into the dark for 4 days, and something's very immune modulating about that. I think, we have certainly a natural light deficit. I'm sitting in front of, just all artificial light right now, but we have a dark deficit. And I really recognize that we need the dark for our regenerative and recovery processes, because in the dark, we're forming those immune modulating neurotransmitters and hormones in abundance, in spades: melatonin, oxytocin, DMT. I mean, for me, that was such an amazing experience to really understand that, we need the dark for oxytocin. Wait a second, like what? Like, okay, what's happening in the dark? That melatonin increasing, that powerful restorative melatonin. We know melatonin at high levels for breast cancer. And I've been wanting to talk to you about this because, like, empowering our body, right, to heal itself, to support its immune system when we have rampant immune issues that are creating susceptible and vulnerable bodies that shouldn't be, right? That should be rebuilt and re-strengthened. And,
I
you
think
know,
you're brilliant, because I think that, Dr. Hannah, this is so important. What we're missing in all of recovery and all of health is balance, dark,
mm,
light. We don't put our phones away. We don't put our computers away. We watch TV, that background noise. We're trying to use GLP-1s to stop noise, but we're looking at the noise of the TV all night long, right? So, I mean, some people sleep with the TV on.
mhm.
So it's really interesting. What you're talking about is about balance. Balance in all ways. Balance with light and dark, balance with all kinds of food, that you don't have to say no to anything. You don't have to over exercise. I can tell you about something I heard today that I found mind boggling in terms of the immune system with exercise. But you're talking about the paradox and balance. We can overfeed, and then we can take um, we can take away eating, and we don't eat, and then when we refeed, we can get remarkable immune resilience, like bears in hibernation, quiescent, and then activation. And that's really the adaptability, if we allow balance, light and dark, for balance and adaptability.
And like feasting and fasting, what you're saying too.
Feasting and fasting. And we know that bears hibernate, and they come out and they have more muscle even after hibernation. They don't have insulin dysregulation after hibernation. Think about hyperbaric oxygen. You can get into a chamber. It's not the time in the chamber. The paradox is that you give extra oxygen while in the chamber. But it's just like when you come out of the chamber, you're now possibly at sea level, and now you're beginning that reactivation and that adaptability, where you're improving stem cellness, where you're improving the resilience and the restoration. The exercise breaks us down, but the recovery rebuilds us. Being in the HBOT chamber at 3.0 atmospheric pressure, if you're a wounded warrior, can help you heal, but it's really when you get out that the healing begins. Those are the
Mm.
paradoxes. It's working all day long during the light, ideally natural light, and then recovering at night in the dark. No, no cell phones, no ambient light, no light from the outside world, room darkening shades, whatever kind of goggle you want to wear. just balance, because we're creating the paradoxes that allow for adaptability and restoration and regeneration. It's really
I,
cool.
and I think about that a lot too, like in the hot flash world, right? Like with
Yeah.
hot flashes, how much have we, woken up in a 70-degree home, getting into a 70-degree car, going to a 70-degree office, and like how much that decreased our adaptability or our ability to thermoregulate and potentially, have more troubles with mitochondria metabolism and hot flashes as a result of that, just for one example.
I think it's a
In
great
that,
example.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so like we think of this, okay, we want recovery. And I'm curious, too, in the longevity space, what you feel about the how you're using GLP-1s, under what circumstances, in what environments, and then, as far as in other injectables, like peptides, stem cells, exosomes.
Well, for the peptides that I love the most are glutathione, easy to do, right? Oxytocin, relatively easy to do. VIP, easy to do because all of these things have conventional backing, right? KPV for the GI tract or for the brain, neuroinflammation.
What's KPV?
KPV is 3 amino acids. It's a peptide. It's often combined with BPC because basically it heals wounds, particularly we know at the gut barrier. It can heal the wound and just restore the barrier function. Likely also in the brain as well. One barrier is the same as another barrier, right? All barriers have to be strong and adaptable, etc. So KPV is often combined with BPC. So we have these different peptides. So those are, again, glutathione, VIP, oxytocin. My favorite, because I think the immune system is critical as a medication drug that we have living within us that is really working over time and not being able to be adapted because our lifestyle doesn't allow it, but are the thymic peptides, thymosin beta 4, thymosin alpha 1. Again, thymosin alpha 1 remarkably studied and approved in every other country except for this one, right? You can buy it with a prescription in Italy in any pharmacy for a dose if you need immune modulation or if you're feeling unwell, sick with the virus or anything like that. TB4 frag is also a great peptide as well. That's an oral one. And I think that those are, and BPC, which we mentioned, those are the primary peptides that are used and studied and really have no downside. So if we stick with some of the basics and we balance the hormones and we balance the light and the dark and the cold and the heat and the red light and the green and the purple and the blue light, and we balance all of the different light energies, we are going to have that balance, just as you're saying, just as you're thinking about, and just as you and I and others are experimenting in. What does it feel like when I go in the dark for 3 days and reset my system? GLP-1s I use as well. I think that the key thing I believe about the GLP-1s is never use the same dose long term. You will not get adaptability. You will never get the paradox that we just spoke about, the like the light and the dark. So you want to teach your body to adapt. Never use the same dose, never take it at the same interval. The smallest interval that we typically will use is a week to decrease the noise, to decrease the inflammation. And using it in this way for many different types of patients, it's been really interesting what I find. And this happens with any of the peptides I use. It's not always what I think, but it is what shows up, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I have a young woman who has so much food noise at night. She's perfectly normal size, normal BMI, you name it. But she just wants to overeat and binge at night, and then she's sick. Her inflammatory markers have been up for a long time. I've known her for over a decade. And with just a tiny dose modulating GLP-1 and creating some adaptability, all of her inflammatory markers came down. Blew my mind. Over years, over 4 years, she had high for 3, 4 years and then down for 1 year. Remarkable. But then I have another woman who's later in life. She's 50s, early 50s, so postmenopausal. Her inflammatory markers are off the chart. She took GLP-1s, but they didn't modulate the same way because there's more to the picture.
Mhm. Mhm.
It's not a simple picture like a 25-year-old.
Yeah. Well, that adaptability, that resilience, right? I keep thinking, like, I think of the devil's pitchfork. You've got to address the devil's pitchfork. For me, I call that adrenal dysregulation, inflammation, and hormone imbalance. Like, that's like the starting point. Of course, there's many things, that lead to those issues, but those are the three, like, I have to really focus on getting in control. And 90% of that, maybe 99.9%, is therapeutic lifestyle and nutrition.
Yeah.
And that's the key pieces. What about with you talked about lights, red light, green light, blue
Yep.
light, purple light. So there's different lights. And I am the happy owner of a biocharger. Thank you to your high-tech recommendations. And so for our listeners, biocharger is a multi
Multifaceted. Multi
multifaceted device that has a Tesla coil. Yeah, you're the expert on this. Tell us about the biocharger and then also the light.
Well, I think what's coming down the pike, as you're saying, in line with the biocharger is energy medicine.
Energy medicine. Huge.
Energy medicine. Because at the end of the day, we're all electrical energy beings. You're talking about neurotransmitters. Those allow the neurons to transmit electrical impulses. Moving electrons along the electron transport chain in mitochondria is energy, right? So we really have to understand energy, electrical energy, light energy, all different kinds of energy. So frequency energy, vibrational energy, all of this is not woo-woo. This is real time.
We are energy beings,
We are
without a doubt.
energy, electrical beings at the end of the day. So in terms of light, different forms of light offer, and you know that because you just talked about light and dark, different forms of light offer different healing modes. Blue light we would use more as an antimicrobial, right?
Yeah.
Red light we can use more as a regenerative field. You can mix lights and basically that's a beautiful thing, but photobiomodulation, photo is light, bio is life, modulating is adapting the body to light, is really key. And so I think that using these modalities, I have a tub that I invested a lot of money in, to take that gives off light energy. So it gives off light, it gives off waves, it gives off everything, but you could do combo of lights like green and purple and a little bit of red to calm you at night because those other light modalities can be extremely calming.
Mm-hmm.
So red is mostly for regeneration, healing mitochondria and other things. Blue is more antimicrobial. Green and purple have their own, reasons. And I think what's really interesting about the biocharger is that it blends the lights through all of the recipes and programs that physicists have put together in order to create healing depending upon the immune system, the neuroinflammation and other things. And it's a great resource for healing tendons, ligaments, brains, guts, all kinds of things, right? Along with the Tesla coil, the frequency. If frequency is so high that you're in sympathetic nervous system mode and your heart rate is over 100 and you're just, buzzing along, it's not good. But if you can add a little balance between the fight or flight, the rest and repair, vagal nervous system tone, you're going to again create the paradox where you have this vagal nervous system tone that then allows the fight or flight for the adrenal gland to be better responding. Right? The first autopsy I did in the morgue at Mass General was a young boy, 17 years old, working at a camp and got an overwhelming infection. It was so overwhelming that he probably got it the day before, didn't wake up and didn't go to camp the next day to do his job as a counselor. And it took too long for anyone to find him sleepy in his bed to get him to the hospital, to ER. By the time he got there, it was over 24 hours. And all we needed to do for this young man was give him an antibiotic injection, boom, and he could have lived. But
Ah,
what did I find? I didn't know about the adrenal glands, even though I had been through med school, blown out adrenal glands, blown out, bloody adrenal glands. Otherwise, everything else was fine. So you're right. The adrenal glands, the cortisol, which was trying to respond to that stress, the DHEA, the neurochemicals, the dopamine, the adrenaline to keep, his blood vessels squeezed so that he could get blood flow wherever he needed it. I mean, those were not able to respond. I'm sure the immune system had another, problem that at that point I didn't necessarily look for, but visibly you could see bloody adrenal glands pop.
Yeah. Yeah.
Big lesson.
Might have felt that way. They may have been bleeding at some point or another for sure. Yeah, and
No.
I think about that, especially with us as women as we age and we go through menopause, and the adrenals are, like we have been so resilient for so long in our life that we almost like, that constant putting the pedal to the metal type of physiology really, sets us up for a very vulnerable time period in this menopausal time period. And we see that with mental health issues, right? We
Mm-hmm.
see that with our bones, rapid decline in bone health, and we see that with immune vulnerability, and then of course cardiometabolic diseases. So like in looking at this stage, like in looking at what we know, let's start with one thing because I've thrown a lot here. Let's just look at our bones. Okay, like rebuilding bones, especially after have been that cortisol, pedal to the metal, like eating through our bones and muscle, right? We want to restore that. We are now aware, okay, everyone listening, we are aware that we are going to get balance, yeah, right? The yin and yang of incorporate the paradoxes, the light and dark, all of those things. We rest you know, with rushing, right? Like come have that balance, get that paradox in. Like in that big one with the light and dark. So we want to rebuild our bones, gain stronger bones, gain muscle in menopause and beyond, post menopause. So the strategies that we need to do at this time of life become this very it has to have a regenerative approach, regenerative, functional, hormonal approach. And so I think about like this instance in general because we eat through our bones with high stress, right? We eat through our bones with so much stuff. So I see young people in their 40s, late 30s, early 40s with tremendous amount of bone loss, and so crazy, but let alone women who get diagnosed have waited to get diagnosed to their mid 60s and they're very frail, right? They're very frail. Like,
Absurd.
okay, what do we need to do?
Mm-hmm. Well, here's how I look at that. And this is from new research that I've read this year, 2025. And I'm sure you've read it too, because I would say, and I recently spoke on hormones at a conference in Boston in earlier September, but I would say that we need to certainly protect our immune system, protect our cortisol and adrenal gland from stress. Because if there's anything that beats up the immune system and ages it, it's cortisol. When cortisol's high or when cortisol's low, the immune system is not strong. Temporarily, yes, but if this is ongoing, as you said, with our lifestyle, this is not sustainable. When that happens, what we now know is that we talk about biological molecular clocks, but the ovary signals aging. So if we beat ourselves up early and we don't eat well, sleep well, think well, move well, rest well, recover well, light, dark, too much exercise, too little exercise, not good food, whatever it is, if we don't create the balance, as you said, then our ovarian aging clock will turn on earlier. And when that ovarian aging clock turns on, we call that progeria. You are now aging. That can turn on at 20. Sure, you can still have babies, but that can turn on at 20, it can turn on at 30, or it can turn on at 50, which would be relatively normal. But there's now work going on that's trying to extend. I saw this today at the conference I was at, extend our childbearing years to our 60s, which is mind-boggling. But we have to understand what that clock is about in our ovaries. Coming back to bone health, our bones are determined by the time we're 20, 25, 30. So I would argue forget about even measuring your bone mineral density at 50. We need to start at 30, 40,
Mhm.
50, 60, maybe even 20 in somebody who's had a lot of stress, poor food, been in a food desert, no exercise or other things. We probably even need to start younger.
Or
Bone
on steroids, right?
or on
Chronic
steroids, right?
steroids. Mhm.
Prednisone. Bones are meant to be bashed. They're meant to be jump, skip, hop. How often do we do that? We don't do that very often. I follow Deepak Chopra on Instagram, and he's always skipping along and jumping along, and he doesn't speak. He only acts. It's really funny to watch him. And he is, the meditation master, right? And just a beautiful human being. And I think we need to get back to childhood because it's way too late to think about bones, muscles, tendons, ligaments. And we know that muscle is the metabolic energy currency for aging, for our
Yes.
NAD, for our mitochondria. So we really need to get back to real foundational, we need to get back to the basics and foundational lifestyle and kind of be more like children, have more fun. You talk about that all the time. You try to make
Yeah.
sex fun, you try to make life fun, try to make women sexy. That's what you talk about.
Playful, right? We have to be playful. Right? And exactly, have that lighthearted, and that's a common thread in the blue zones, right? The lightheartedness. And I would say, like, with ovarian aging, because I see this, we reset the ovarian clock with creating insulin sensitivity, optimizing alkalinity by increasing oxytocin and good nutrients, and decreasing or resetting our circadian rhythm. So for me, that's the keto-green plan. With intermittent fasting, you got to give your body time to rest, right? And I think about that, and I think about the key when we focus on these, like, this really powerful peptide oxytocin. And there was just a study showing that higher oxytocin associated with higher bone density. I'm like, of course, it's the most alkalinizing hormone of our body. Like, of course, right? Like, of course. And so all of these pieces start to come together. So then we're on our biohacking field, and say I'm 59 this year, Kathleen, and
Wow.
thinking, okay, I'm like, I'm my 60th revolution around the sun. So this is a big, I'm entering my
A
second half,
beautiful time. Look at you.
right?
Yeah.
Entering my second half of my life, if we have 120 life expectancy. So I'm like, okay, everything I do today is you know, serving that version of myself that I see in the future. So, and like, in knowing this in the biohacking space, I keep saying, okay, foundations are key. But
Baby.
yet in my supplement drawer, in my fridge, there's a selection of peptides and supplements that I sometimes go to that I'm like, I wonder, like,
But they're fun.
your expertise in
I
this. Yeah.
think they're foundational, Anna. And
Mhm.
supplements are considered foundational because the reality is also I'm a physiologist, right? My undergrad degree is
Yeah.
in physiology. So there's physiology that's normal and physiology that's healthy and it's adaptive and the more adaptable it can be, the better we are. And then there's pathophysiology that consistently stays aberrant or not working. And that's not good. And if someone microbiome gets messed up and they need more iron, or if somebody needs more B12 for one reason or another, or if someone needs, some methylfolate because they have methylation impairment, or somebody needs immunomodulatory support with a thymosin peptide, or gut support with the BPC or KPV, or they need hormonal support with DHEA or oxytocin. That is wise. That is what we do to win in competition sports. I mean, if I want to win in competition, which of course I love to win, actually I won a medal last week
Did you?
at the head of the Charles, my 45th head of the
D-
Charles.
Oh, so with rowing?
Yeah. Yeah.
Congratulations. Congratulations. Wow.
So if I didn't put back what that boat needed,
Yeah.
prior to the race, if I went out and practiced and I didn't restore, we need a strategy and we need to know what the basic needs are. Any football team, any soccer team, any basketball team, any rowing team, they need to know the basics, the fundamentals. It's the same in life, right? You can't hack your life without doing the fundamentals. You can't win a championship without doing the fundamentals. And then beyond the fundamentals, it's what am I going to supplement with? And what am I going to use that my body had naturally? Which peptide might I use or remodulate oxytocin? They are signaling therapies to the body like, yep, that's exactly what I needed. Oxytocin, thymosin, BPC, glutathione. These things get worn down and used up, and we need to restore them. Of course, we put air in our tires, we put oil in our cars. I mean, we're not going to do that. That doesn't make any sense. Those are not, those are part of the hack. There's no panacea or silver bullet with just the supplement or the peptide. You still need the fundamentals. That's the way it goes. So Eric Verdin of the Buck Institute, who I know you know, and other National Institute of Aging, there were a bunch of people today from the NIA, all of them would say, that 93% of it is lifestyle. 7% of it is genetic, because we know we have so many genes that aren't even turned on, right? They're not even turned on. And so we've got to turn them on through the information we feed our genes, whether it's sleep or no sleep, dark or light, food or good food or bad food, etc. So we've got to epigenetically feed that through lifestyle. And then the rest of it we can hack, right? With regenerative, medicinal signaling, supplements, peptides, it could be extracellular vesicles. You know what I also learned today that you'll love? There's a group that are taking ectopic pregnancies. They're going into an ectopic pregnancy. They're going into the fallopian tube, and they're taking human trophoblastic stem cells, which again is not a problem for religious reasons, because it helped the mother, it helped the person to take this follicular pregnancy that's ectopic out, take the trophoblastic stem cells out, which are the earliest stem cells we can harvest. And these are pluripotent and they're immortal, and we can use these for healing. It is unbelievable that these are not like cheating therapies. These are therapies that are used to restore, to regenerate. They obviously have to be regulated. They obviously have to be done in medically supervised conditions, and they have to be done by the right person by the right clinician for the right client. I mean, these are really big. We are physicians, scientists. We believe in regulation. We believe that everything should be safe, it should be effective, and it should be sustainable, right?
And ethical, right?
And ethical, of course.
Yeah.
I mean, but these are pretty remarkable, and the studies that have already been done on them about reducing senescent profiles, senescent cells, and then restoring the health of tissue, it's unbelievable.
And it brings me the thought of menstrual stem cells. Like we have ignored menstrual blood, menstrual stem cell. And what is happening in the stem cell world with menstrual stem cells? I mean, that should be like abundant, easy, proliferative access to this, right? I've got 4 daughters that are menstruating. So how can I use this, right? That's what I want to know.
Really true. I mean, it's so interesting, but at the end of the day, to collect that and process it may be more expensive than it would be to use what we can harvest in other ways. And I remember even when I was in pathology at Mass General, not just in the morgue, but at the bedside, I mean, at the bench next to the OR, do you know how many placentas I threw away? I mean, I just want to cry.
I want to cry
thinking
too.
about it.
Yep.
Right? You too, right?
Like, at least 500. Right.
And you know what? Waste is a natural resource that we should be using, meaning placentas, cord blood, amniotic fluid, and all of these, these trophoblastic stem cells that we can harvest from an ectopic pregnancy that could only harm a mom and really isn't viable. Right? It's amazing.
Right. So potential down the field. And what are you what else are you super excited about? Well, actually, I know you got a lot of excitement in your clinic, because I was able to, when I went to Harvard's Women's Health and Menopause event last year, I came to your clinic and I was like, oh my God, look at all these toys. Look at all this great stuff you've got going on here. So can you walk us through a cutting edge regenerative medicine clinic, your clinic?
They can be many, but I like to keep things simple. But one thing I want to give a shout out to you because you being showing up at that Harvard, GYN and menopausal conference was amazing. You were a unicorn. You were one in the middle of many conventional mainstream clinicians really educating in ways that, wow, I mean, they really needed. And I think that they're beginning to hear.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a learning process, right? If you don't know, you don't know. You can only know what you know, but by the time we know what we know, we can't unlearn what we know,
No.
right? I mean, that's a big thing. So in my clinic, I thought about the fundamentals and I really wanted to not overwhelm or kind of get distracted by too many
Yeah.
things. So we
Yeah.
have the energies, we have the light energies, the frequency, the vibration, and the Tesla coil through the biocharger, which I think is pretty good. One of the most fundamental things also I have in the clinic that I really love and I use a lot, it helps me a lot, particularly with a lot of stress, is hyperbaric oxygen chambers. But atmospheric pressures between 1.3 to 1.5, even 1.7. I was recently at a hyperbaric meeting and the clinical faculty were so high level. I was blown away. It was amazing. And in Pensacola. And I think that the hyperbarics, we are lacking in oxygen as well. We are lacking
Totally.
vibration, that balanced frequency, balanced light therapy. As we started the conversation with, we are lacking in oxygen. And many people are lacking oxygen when they sleep, right? They snore, they can't breathe, and it's all because of all of the other things that we talked about that cause us to age younger, the adrenal gland, the immune system, the things you mentioned earlier. So hyperbarics for neurological health, for recovery, unbelievable. The hypoxic, hyperoxic paradox, the HHP, again, that paradox of being in it, having extra oxygen getting out, and things get turned on and begin to adapt. And if you do that regularly, 40, 60 sessions, whether it's for trauma, it can be just PTSD. It doesn't have to be for traumatic brain injury or major concussion or any other brain injury. You can do this for all things. It is the stroke. I mean, those are major problems, but even trauma that we can't even pinpoint, put our hand on. In 60 sessions, there have been studies that have demonstrated that there can be major changes with respect to trauma from HBOT. I love HBOT.
Mm-hmm.
So we use HBOT, we use electrical energies like light and frequency and vibration. We use specific machines for generating osteoblastic activity that can last for a week called
So that's the osteotron
that's the
osteostrong.
OsteoStrong.
Yep.
And then and I love that because we know that the medications for osteoporosis, osteopenia, basically a recent study that came out with 500,000 women in the study basically demonstrated that there's a 30 to 35% increased risk of arrhythmia, AFib, and of heart disease, which is pretty mind-boggling with that number of patients from even some of the more advanced immunotherapies for bone health. So that was a little disturbing to me. So I was glad I got ahead of that one. And
Yeah.
then we use the peptides. We do IV nutritional therapies, not because it's sustainable in a regular way, but to boost when somebody's sick, right?
Mhm.
When somebody needs it because they can't get a handle on their redox, their oxidative stress, their free radicals, and we want to bring that down a little bit more quickly. Or if they have swelling in the brain, we might do an IV therapy to kind of calm the brain a little bit and remove some of the swelling with different IV therapies that we can do. So we also use pressotherapy. I love the pressotherapy because
What is that? What do you mean presotherapy?
pressotherapy is basically kind of like a way more advanced Theragun, but it's pressotherapy. They've used it for a long time in Europe, like the 50s and the 60s, where you squeeze its lymphatic drainage.
Right, right.
So
It's that compression.
you can put on a jacket that comes up to here. You can put on, pants that come up to above your liver, and basically they squeeze into the veins, the vena cava from above and below the lymphatics, all those vessels that are living in the fascia that are going to help you clear and cleanse that tissue to be ready for the next day. I love my two favorites are HBOT, pressotherapy, once a week, OsteoStrong. I always just walk in and put on the biocharger just because I like good energy flowing in my space. So I do that, just not necessarily for personalized therapy, but the others I do for personalized therapy. And then I only take peptides.
Yeah.
I only take peptides, and I don't take them regularly every day. Again, I love the adaptability, just like with the GLP-1s. You can take them once a week or you can take them once a month. You could take them every 10 days, 3 times a month. You could take them 2 times a month, but make your body adapt. Give your
Change it up.
body change it up. I do microdosing, adaptability, changing up the dose, changing up the frequency, depending on the time of the year. If it's a big holiday, a bar mitzvah, or a holiday like Thanksgiving or Diwali or whatever it is, maybe you want a higher dose then, the higher dose of the microdosing that week. But once you're through that holiday and you're back in your routine, maybe you get down to a microdose.
Right? And change up the timeline. Thank you so much. Okay, tell everyone, Dr. Kathleen, where to find you, how to connect with you.
Yeah, we're in Boston, in the South End, at a place called SOA, treatwellness.boston, that's our website. And then we have treatwellness.boston is our Instagram. I don't do our Instagram, but somebody else does it, so I don't really follow myself on Instagram.
Oh, no.
But we are on Instagram. I think Instagram goes directly to Facebook, so Instagram and Facebook, are connected somehow. I'll learn more about this in 26, I'm sure. But for 2025, I've just been keeping up with the medicine and how to be as effective, safely, sustainably, and in a personalized way with the right patients who are ready for some intervention.
Yeah, ultimately it's personalized medicine, right? There's no way I wish I could find a one size fits all, but that never leads to good results. So definitely personalized medicine. And I think it's that flexibility and it's that empowerment of the individual. We've got to hit the foundations. We have to do that. And that makes the biggest difference in our lives. And and knowing when to get help, what the right help is, and certainly as we go into supporting our immune system, as we're following into the winter months, supporting our immune system, listening to our bodies, resetting, all of those good pieces. But there's always something else we can do. I'm waiting for your books, Kathleen. I'm waiting for
next week, next year, 2026 is the year of the books.
Here are the books. I'm waiting. I'm excited. All right. Thank you so much for being here. I so appreciate it. I mean, there's so much information, and we think of, increasing osteoblastic activity, right? And that's one of the things that you discussed is increasing osteoblastic activity. We know that estrogen decreases osteoclastic activity, but DHEA, testosterone, progesterone increase osteoblastic activity, as well as the high high intensity pressurized workout, right? That's part of OsteoStrong's facilities. And then, thinking when we need a boost, like right away getting in for some IV therapy, hyperbaric medicine. I mean, I did hyperbaric research as a young 21-year-old for the US Navy, thinking, okay, that is, it's pretty impressive, the changes in the compression the body makes and how that can affect our physiology. In our clinic too, here in Dallas, we have the HBOT, and that's important. And then the peptides, how to do them safely, not overdo them, empower your body, because we never want to suppress the body's ability to make and use its own hormones safely. So much here. Thank you so much, Dr. Kathleen O'Neil Smith, for being on our show. You guys check her out there in Boston, and amazing facility, amazing scientist and physician that is literally and has been for over 2 decades on the cutting edge of peptide stem cell science, recovery, and regenerative medicine. And I thank all of you for listening today to us here on the Girlfriend Doctor Show. Please share this episode and subscribe to us wherever you listen to podcasts, and certainly on my YouTube channel for latest lives and alerts and updates. Thank y'all for being here. God bless you. Till next time.
Thanks for watching another episode of the Girlfriend Doctor podcast. Check out all the links below for more.